And we're back. Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 74. It is the first day of the week, aka the Vulcan Raven workout. Today I'm feeling alright. Yesterday was an unexpected workout with me and my friend Jose, which I would show footage here, but unfortunately did not record any of it. So it just ended up just being more of a fun little time with me and my buddy, and we just caught up and it worked out. Reason why I didn't record anything was because the gym that we were using was a small gym, not like personal, but more so like a community gym at where he's living. There was somebody else there and I didn't want to record, you know, while somebody else is there. It was that small, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, let me not be a dickhead here and just, or the missing footage from that. There is some lost footage from a car intro I did, but maybe that will never see the light of day. Maybe it will one day, who knows. So today's main subject matter at hand is something I've been meaning to do for a little while. I wanted to go through the 7 deadly sins. I don't know if I'm gonna do one every single day this week or if I'm gonna do one as time progresses. I could have done another one actually today with something that happened over the weekend, but I'll save that story for another time. But I think today's sin, because I wanted to go over that, was perfect timing because I'll explain in a second. So first, the subject matter for today, as you've read in the title, Sloth. So personally today, the reason why this is even coming up is because today I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like moving. I feel like I want to be in bed and sleep. Sleep as much as humanly possible. I do not want to do anything at all. I am not in the mood to go to the gym. I'm not in the mood to I'm not even in the mood to like watch stuff. I don't even want to watch stuff. I just want to like sleep and do absolutely nothing anywhere, you know? And then that got me thinking about, like, I was gonna make a video about laziness and I was like, I could do a video about laziness, but this is like ultra laziness. This is beyond laziness right now. Like, I just want to do absolutely nothing. And then it made me think of, oh yeah, I was gonna do the 7 deadly sins eventually as videos, each individual sin as a video. So I decided to just take this one to do sloth. Now, sloth is probably one of the first sins of the 7 that I think of whenever I think of the 7 deadly sins. Now, is it the worst one? No, I don't think it's the worst per se, but it is definitely not good. Obviously they're not, you know what I mean? But in the layers that they are, I guess, like from bad to worst, I would say it is on the lighter side. But when doing a quick Google search, because I wanted to make sure that I got this correctly, because I personally wanted to know the difference between laziness and sloth, you know? It's just basically like, you can be lazy and just not want to do anything, but like sloth is like, you want to not do anything to an extreme that makes it so you're basically putting like everything in danger, basically, like your life. You don't want to eat, you don't want to do anything at all, period. The reason why it's a sin is because it's considered the fact that you're wasting resources by just sitting there doing absolutely nothing and not really contributing to anything, which makes sense. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like a sloth a little bit in the sense that I have not had a job, so I can't be a functioning member of society in that sense. But I mean, at the same time, I'm trying. It's not like I'm not sitting there being like, oh, I can't find a job and not trying, you know. There is that, but still there is some level of like weird underlying guilt for not being able to contribute as a fully functioning member of society, having a job, you know, paying taxes and whatnot. It's tax season this week, so tax season ends soon, so that's why I'm mentioning that. But anyways, I thought that was just a funny little, I feel like that as well. Personally, today, I'm just not feeling it. I don't want to go to the gym. I feel fine. I'm just tired. I don't know what it is. As I say this, I probably know what it was. I went a little crazy on food yesterday just because it was a celebration. So a small little victory, but we'll discuss that on a different day. But for today, just know that it's probably the reason why I'm not feeling too like herky-jerky, because I have noticed / I've discovered that the day before's food determines how I feel the day after, most likely. So if I eat, like, let's just say McDonald's the day before, the next day I'm gonna feel like trash, and or immediately after, one of the two. Taco Bell, slightly the same. The day after, it's just a little shittier, you know. I'm not running at or even just 100%. I'm running at like 75, 60%. It all just depends. So yesterday, maybe a little too much sweets, so I'm just not feeling it. Speaking about that though, weight is one 197.7. So not too bad. A little bit up, but not too bad. Still going on the pathway down. Today I plan on just basically not eating much because I just want to let my body process whatever the hell's in me out of me. So as long as we get back on track. Yesterday actually I weighed 195.9. So a little bit of a gain, but I also feel like most of it's water weight. It'll probably just be shut off. So we'll see if we can get past the 195 barrier, then we'll be good to go. But anyways, so like I was saying, Sloth, when thinking about it in general, Sloth is just one of those like extreme laziness. I feel like we all know somebody that is extremely lazy. You know, I might be that person for other people, you know, but at the same time, it's like I don't think we know somebody that's like detrimentally lazy, I guess. But then there are some people that will become that person once certain aspects of other things are introduced. Weed is a big one. I have discovered that people will do absolutely nothing, and that is an issue with weed. But I guess I don't want to get too into the weed part of this, but I'll say this, that most of the time it ends up being a byproduct of smoking is the ultra laziness, and that is an issue for multiple reasons. But I think one of the things that I always think of, like, you know, when reading the idea that sloth is like, you know, you're detrimentally lazy, it's like, yeah, I mean, I get that, where you could just do not only absolutely nothing, but like to the point where you're like ignoring your own like personal health. You'll just kind of let things fester, and or let things that should be taken care of not taken care of, even basic things like showering, you know, letting those things just like kind of like multiply, and like the longer you do it, the worse it is. Yeah, I feel like I don't want to blame society today, but at the same time, I think in today's world, it is easier to be very, very sedentary and lazy without having to do anything at all. The doom scroll really can help with that entire aspect, which is kind of crazy, because you could do absolutely nothing and just stay at home without leaving anywhere. Honestly, it's kind of crazy. And then, like, I don't know if you've ever heard any of these stories. Okay, so warning for this next part. So this is going to be a little bit of a story time. So this is just because this is when I think of sloth, I think of these stories. So there apparently are stories of people who end up sitting in one place for long enough that they end up becoming fused with the thing that they're sitting on, which is insane that even can happen, but it does happen. There have been reports of people that have been literally stuck on a couch, like, and then they get food and fed and stuff, but they end up, like, you know, defecating and doing all their business there anyway. But it gets to the point where they just end up fusing part of themselves into whatever, like, the couch is. There was I read a story once about this lady who sat on a toilet and was fused to a toilet seat for a while there. And I'm not making fun of these people, because, like, honestly, like, most of the time it is like they're mentally ill, and also they have people that are just enabling them, but also aren't like questioning what's going on, you know, quickly. If my wife is in the bathroom for more than 6 hours, I'm worried. You know what I mean? Hell, even more than 2 hours, I'm worried. You know, I should probably call a doctor or something, you know? But these people stay there for days, weeks, months on end, and for some reason it just doesn't occur to their partner or whoever to be like, parents for some other cases, to be like, hey, what's going on? But also, I can't blame them, because they don't know what the hell the person's going through, so they're just thinking it's some weird coping mechanism, which it is. So those horror stories are kind of crazy, but I mean, that is part of it, is like a coping mechanism for some crazy stuff that they've gone through. But also, I just think of that, the sin of sloth, in that sense, where these people, some literally die because they just don't move, and their body is too far gone in like rotting, basically, that they're just kind of screwed. It's crazy to think that can happen to certain people, and it can happen to anybody. I mean, really. I started mentioning the fact that society nowadays can help you be lazy, and what I was saying with those stories are extreme, obviously. But the thing is, these extreme stories aren't necessarily too far out of the norm for certain people. Like, you know, there are certain people that will sit all day at one desk at work and like get up for lunch. You know what I mean? That's 8 hours in front of something. Some people don't even leave their desk for lunch. They just have their lunch there. And you know what I mean? Like, doing that 8 hours a day for 5 times a week, you know what I mean? That adds up to quite a bit of time just sitting there. Sure, you're doing work, sure, you're being a functioning member of society, but something about that I feel like can compound relatively easily outside of there. You know, you sit at work all day, so you just want to sit in a more comfortable position at home, and that's it. You don't feel like doing anything else, because some people will get into that weird like loop of that's all I want to do, I don't want to do anything else, and I don't like being active because I'm already tired from work, even though the work is just you sitting in front of a computer, which yeah, I personally don't get, but at the same time I'm unemployed, so I can't really say too much about that. But anyways, but like I was saying, it's just interesting to think about sloth in the sense that we generally are lazy. You know, not everybody's lazy, but most people are just generally like, all right, if I could do nothing, I'll go with doing nothing, you know? Or just like smaller things, you know, like if I could do menial tasks, I'll do menial tasks. But it's like a weird, like, of course, balance of everything, you know? I just think about how people will go to those extremes where they just do absolutely nothing, how it affects people's lives. You can see it, it drains like their personalities and stuff. Like they're so lazy they aren't even people. Like they're just, oh, what do you do? Oh, I just sleep and watch movies. Oh, okay. Well, you seem like fun at parties. But, you know, but that happened. But we'll talk more about sloth in general on the inside.
Alright, so this day start off with dips, which were pretty good, very much enjoyed those. So I wanted to start this discussion of sloth with first obesity, which is actually a very interesting starting off point because it would also go with gluttony. It's like you could see where the crossover between multiple of the sins kind of come together. So the only reason why I wanted to bring up obesity, I won't go into it because that'll be mostly reserved for gluttony, but obesity, there is something there with sloth in that there are people who are just too lazy to, one, make their own food, but two, really do research on what, you know, works for them. That also happens a lot of the time, I feel like. People aren't careful with what they should be doing with their diet and stuff, so that ends up being their lazy downfall, especially when it comes to eating, but that's just a small factor of it. Obviously, there's way more, and we'll get into that whenever we get into gluttony. But extreme laziness is just kind of crazy, and it is a lot of rampant. It is a big thing. People live very sedentary lives nowadays. I mean, it's very easy to live a very sedentary life. It's not that challenging. I can imagine how easy it is, honestly. If I really wanted to, I could just absolutely do nothing, get paid doing nothing in front of a computer, and then do absolutely nothing after. And it is interesting. I mean, there are some people who don't even need to go out anymore. I think, like, because of everything that happened, world events made things more convenient, but also made it in a way that you don't have to leave anymore. Like, you really could, if you wanted to, make it so you just stay in one spot and call it a day, you know? I also wanted to expand a little bit on the stories that I was talking about earlier, and just say that I do truly feel bad for those people. It's not necessarily like they are committing cardinal sins, obviously, because there are some mental health issues that happen with these types of people, but it's more of a cautionary tale that can be taken as a way that these people show the extreme side of a sin, basically, you know, of sloth, and that entire aspect literally destroys their lives, you know. And some people who have been in the situations have recovered and they were fine, but it does happen, and that is just an extreme example of something where if you let it go and not pay attention to it, it could really ruin your life, as well as the people around them who were inactive on doing things, that were just taking their time to do something about it, but because they for some reason just wanted to let them figure it out, and then they didn't actually go forth and try to stop it. I was going to discuss sloth from the Dante's Inferno book because I thought it was in Inferno, but it is actually not one of the 9 circles of hell. I actually miscalculated. I thought it was one of them, but no, it is part of one of the 7 sins from Purgatory, which is one of the books I have not read. I actually read Dante's Inferno a long time ago, but I haven't read Purgatory, so this is interesting. I was looking at the Wikipedia page about sloth, which is, I believe, it's the 4th terrace of going up. If I remember correctly, correctly, if you don't know Dante's Inferno, it's the three different books. That first book is about the 9 circles of hell, which is Inferno. Then Purgatory, which is, I'm just looking at it right now, is the 7 terraces of Purgatory, and then Paradise, which is heaven, basically. And I believe there aren't stages there. I could be wrong, but I remember it's just kind of loose, if I remember correctly. They don't really go into details of what each thing is, but I will have to try and read Purgatory in the relatively near future. I might read it at the gym, but that'll be a different video. But anyways, while reading this is very interesting. I'm going to give a brief spoiler warning for people who don't want to know about this, but in Purgatory, according to Wikipedia, this says, on the 4th terrace we find souls whose sin is that deficient love, that is sloth. It says they have failed in life to act in pursuit of love. Here they are engaged in ceaseless activity. I think it's interesting to see this as something where sloth is coming, because I could see that translating into the real world where people don't necessarily pursue love, and that is something that most people should probably end up doing. There's a lot of people who end up single out there. I mean, I haven't done the video yet about it, but the male loneliness epidemic, or just the loneliness epidemic in general, is a big thing, and it's happening a lot nowadays. You see people who are just gonna probably end up alone and or don't want to be with anybody, or, you know, from either side, male or female. It's kind of sad and a little bit disheartening, to say the least. I'm thankful I don't have to deal with something like that. But it's interesting that their laziness makes it so when they go into the afterlife, they are busy, and thus they can't do anything but keep busy with whatever they're tasked with. And then I also wanted to mention the animal sloth, because there was just, I mentioned this at a certain point or the other, but why do they call it sloth? Like, this always feels like naming your child Cain or something like that. You know what I mean? It's up there. It's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand it. But anyways, that's just probably for whoever came up with the idea of sloth as an animal. I mean, I get it. They are super lazy, and they will die randomly because they're so lazy, but it is what it is. I also wanted to mention sloth in certain aspects of your life. So for example, if you let something consume your life and let other parts of your life degrade, it can be a very terrible thing. For example, you see a lot of people who are like addicted to video games, and then the world around them, they're living in literal filth. You know what I mean? Like, it is disgusting. Some people literally have pee bottles next to them because they don't get up to go use the bathroom. That's how serious it is. People's lives literally wasted away in front of a computer screen. And I'm not saying all video games are like this, but there are some people who allow their addiction to one thing let everything else around them fall off, and that could cause many, many issues. So just got to be aware of that and don't let that happen, obviously. I think to end it off, I just want to say sloth is basically inaction. And you got to be careful about the inaction in your life, because that could really, really lead to some terrible cases for people and for yourself if you don't take action in what you need to do, whatever it is, you know? I know for me personally, one of my issues is not having a job, but it's not like I'm sitting on my hands and crying, woe is me. It's more of applying to different places and praying, you know? Spray and pray, as they say. Just trying to get anything going.
Hello, and we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in today, surprisingly. Very, very different than how I felt this morning. And the main subject of the video, I actually hit some PRs and was doing well, honestly, today. So, nice. A little bit of a change. To get back to the subject matter at hand, sloth. And maybe at the end of doing all of the sins, I'll probably rank them least worst to worst. I don't know what it's going to be. It'll probably be like a countdown to 1. I don't know where sloth will rank upon them because it is the first of them. Personally, not a fan. Obviously, I understand there are people that laziness will fulfill them. I personally am not like that. Even when I feel lazy, I still try to do something. It's like inertly in my personality type or just DNA to have to do something. There's no like off time, you know what I mean? That's not how I roll. So it's just the way it is. I feel weird when I don't do something. But there is something to be said that people need to be careful about sloth because of how the world works nowadays, that you can really get away with doing absolutely little to nothing, honestly, and it is kind of insane. Certain drugs can really make that go up a notch or 7, so then that way you really don't do anything, depending on the drug. But, you know, that's a whole other subject for a whole other day. But with that being said, sloth is something to be aware of. You can become lazy in certain parts of your life where you just stop paying attention to things and then let things degrade. An example of this, a lot of dudes end up letting their health deteriorate, or let something that they have, like something that ails them, just ignore it, you know what I mean? Be lazy about it, not go to a doctor about it, and just let it like consume them until it gets to the point where they have to go, and then when they're forced to go, they realize that if they would have gone earlier, they would have been fine. So that is something to be careful about, and that you shouldn't let your like world atrophy around you. So if you can take care of something, take care of it as soon as possible. And if you can't, well then don't just leave it to the next time you think about it type of deal. Write it down and make sure that you know what you're doing, because you can mess your entire life up by being passive and not really doing anything and being ultra lazy. But when I think of sloth, I think of that laziness and inaction to do things. So you got to be very aware and careful about that, because that can and will bite you in the ass. A lot of the times it will. I mean, for me personally, I was this close, staying at home, sleeping, telling the wife to call off of work and being like, fuck it, we're doing absolutely nothing today. This close. But I know that that would have led to multiple problems in the future. So I'm like, all right, nah, we gotta do this. We gotta go to the gym. We gotta let the wife go to work, do her thing. So you gotta be careful. You can't let it always win. You can occasionally let it win, but very, 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 very seldomly. So you got to be careful, because also if you're the type of personality to let it win a little bit, the little bit becomes a lot of it, and you got to be careful about that. There are people that will not allow themselves a day off because they know if they do, it'll start a process. I'm the same way with food, where if I don't nip it in the bud immediately after, I will continue to just gorge and gorge and gorge as much as humanly possible on food. So you got to be careful about that. We'll do gluttony sometime, but gluttony is a different day, maybe a different week. Maybe I'll do these once a week. It all just depends on how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling very fat, you know what I mean, maybe. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. Tell me what you think about sloth, the general sin, and or laziness in general. Or if you want to talk about the animal, go ahead. Well, I'll probably have discussed that briefly in the voiceover. But thank you very much for watching. I will be back on tomorrow with something new. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with somebody who you think might like this. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!